Are we all just overthinking the decommitment of Dayton Raiola?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, welcome. It is Friday, and we are back again. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone with Sherman there from The Athletic. It's a Friday mailbag. Thanks for watching, listening to our crossover yesterday with Zach from Penn State. Some interesting stuff in there. If you missed it, you can check it out. We've been sort of wonky, I guess, with the episodes this week, but we are back now
A little bit
to get through your questions here on a Friday. I'm excited, Mitch.
Yeah, next week we'll be wonky as well. We'll have a mailbag on Thursday, Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
So start thinking about your Thanksgiving questions. They don't have to be about football.
Oh, yeah, and I'll be coming to you from a different location in the next couple of shows as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll all be fun.
Oh, it'll be
Let's
fun.
get these questions. It will
All right,
be
here we
fun.
go. Joe in Eastern Oregon. We haven't got the chance to talk about Dayton Raiola's decommitment much. So Joe asks us, could it be a blessing in disguise? Sounds like TJ and Trey Taylor are both higher ranked recruits. They are. Does this erase any type of controversy, or am I just overthinking?
Well, where TJ Lateef ranks as a recruit is not important to this discussion.
No.
It's where does TJ Lateef rank as the starting quarterback at Nebraska here in the last month of the season. Yeah, I mean, I do think that Dayton Raiola was getting lost in the shuffle a bit between all of the talk around TJ Lateef and what his future might be at Nebraska, whenever that future at Nebraska for him really takes off. And then Trey Taylor and the way that he has just completely taken hold of being the front man for that 2027 recruiting class. He's just a year behind Raiola in recruiting. And if you're Dayton and you're sitting there and you're seeing this with TJ and you're seeing this with Taylor, it is easy to believe that you might be the odd man out. I don't know, because the Raiolas have not talked about this, where that factored in the reason for his decision on Wednesday to decommit. I don't know if that's if that was a factor, a small factor, a big factor. There has been all kinds of conversation in the past 48 hours since this thing went down about maybe how it impacts the overall situation with Dylan Raiola, who's injured right now and rehabbing. We don't know. And you can speculate. There are rumors, but we're going to let this thing play out and see how TJ Lateef does over the next couple of games, because that is an important piece in how it looks, how the quarterback picture looks with or without the Raiolas moving forward.
We certainly could be overthinking it. I mean, there's a way where this ends up, and it's just your stock. Nebraska has Dylan Raiola next year, and they have TJ Lateef is their backup, and they don't have a quarterback commit for this class, and they get Trey Taylor in 27, and then we just move on with our lives. Like that is potentially in the options there. So we could be overthinking it. That's for sure. I don't think the chatter is going away. I don't think it erases any type of drama, controversy, or anything like that. That's going to only heat up over the next several weeks. So with every play
that TJ Lateef makes, good or bad, in the games the next 2 weeks, there will be ramifications that reverberate among the fan base about what that means for Dylan Raiola, what that means for Trey Taylor and Nebraska's quarterback picture moving ahead. And if you're doing that, if you're engaging in that activity, then yes, you are overthinking it.
Yeah, be prepared. Patrick in Pilger, a frequenter of the mailbag. After listening to a few Penn State podcasts, I can see that the interest level in the Nebraska game for them is low. The coaching conversation is at the top of their mind. James Franklin signing at Virginia Tech has emotions flooding back. Terry Smith's emotional win. Who's next, etc. I understand the focus and narratives are different inside of football and building and outside, but is it possible the distractions of this week affect Penn State's performance on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's possible.
Sure.
I think there also comes a time when this kind of a situation exists for a college football program that you reach like the top of the mountain of being distracted, and then you start to come down the other side and be less distracted. And and maybe that's happened with Penn State. That certainly happened with Nebraska in 2022. After Mickey Joseph became the interim coach, there was this period of all kinds of distractions, and the fans remained distracted. But I think when they got late in the year, the players just kind of said, "Forget it," and they put it out of their minds, and they all got together in the locker room and used the distractions, the outside noise, as a force to bring them together. And that's why Nebraska went to Iowa and won at the end of that season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that Nebraska, you could make the argument that Nebraska was distracted the week they went and played Minnesota, because that was the week everybody was talking about Matt Rhule and his contract.
Yeah, you could make that argument.
They certainly didn't play very well. So yeah, but make no mistake about it. Like, the conversation around Penn State is not about the game for a reason. Like, I had somebody bring up to me yesterday, like, hey, are we overlooking the fact that if they win the next two, they could get to a bowl game? And I was like, no, they don't care about going to a bowl game.
They really don't.
This season, the book has been written on the 2025 season for Penn State. So it's a great opportunity for Nebraska to go in there and get a win.
It would be cleaner for Penn State if it didn't go to a bowl game. Like, I don't know what Terry Smith would do in that situation. He wants to coach next year, and it would be better for him on a personal level if on a career level, maybe personally, he'd like to coach this team and see it through to a bottom rung bowl game. But career wise, he would like to just move on after next week. Of course, I would imagine Terry Smith will coach Penn State in a bowl game if it wins the next two weekends. Speaking of Penn State, we go to Max in Lincoln. Can you ever recall a coach who got fired in season, then hired by another power program before the program that fired him hired his replacement? And then for good measure, that coach tried to recruit away all of his once committed players.
That is amazing. And when you really lay it out that way, and I can't, but I haven't thought about it for very long. I can't, it would have to be recent, right? So
yeah, because you didn't have these in-season firings until recent. And then for an in-season firing to then result in that coach getting a job still in season is very rare, because you have to have another team that did an in-season firing. We are talking about,
like, not only that, but like I said, just a month plus later, in the same like region, in the same territory, they're like 6 hours away from each other. Like, they occupy the same kind of space in the world. Penn State's on a different level as a program, but like, yeah, it's crazy. He's just wearing different colors now. It's amazing to think about.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, then where have you been? And we're talking about Penn State and James Franklin being hired by Virginia Tech, and he's got a large number of his former recruits at Penn State visiting Virginia Tech this weekend.
Amazing.
While Penn State is playing on senior day. Yeah. I don't know that it's ever happened. Certainly not like this.
Hey, so just to go back to that other question, if there was ever a doubt of what people are focused on up there at Penn State, could you imagine if someone got let go here and then took the Iowa job and then started having the recruits,
or like the Kansas State job? The Kansas State job.
Yeah, whatever it might be. And then started having the recruits from that class visit that place before the season ended and potentially stealing them. People would be pissed. It would be ridiculous around here. So yeah, there's a reason why they're a little
when you put it that way, they're actually, I think, handling it quite well. Like, they're not picketing outside Pat Kraft's office is a surprise. And maybe they are. I know a bunch of the media, we had Audrey on with us a couple of weeks ago. Audrey and a few of the other writers at Penn State went to Blacksburg this week for the introduction of James Franklin, to cover that, not the lead up to Penn State, Nebraska. They got a sit-down interview with him, which is rare for a fired coach, unless it's Mike Riley.
It'd be like if Scott Frost took the K-State job in season 2 years ago.
Yeah, amazing.
It'd be a very different thing.
All right, from Scott in Windsor. Yeah, I'll get this. From Scott in Windsor, he says, maybe we've all looked the wrong way. Maybe Penn State will hire a Nebraska coach after all. We focused on the wrong guy. It's John Butler, born and raised, played high school football in Pennsylvania, coached at Penn State in 2012 and 2013. It's all about fit. I think that's kind of a joke. And then he says, gentlemen, have you ever seen a 4-6 football team favored by 8.5 points, which is where the line is now, over a 7-3 team?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure it has happened. But I, not with Nebraska involved, really. I am surprised, for the record. We talked about this week. I think that's too many points. Just given the volatility of Penn State this year. With that being said, it's a talented football team. They have kind of found themselves a little bit. And then you look at it matchups wise, Nebraska's had a difficulty stopping the run, which Penn State's going to do. So you could potentially get there. I still think it's too many. I'm not a professional bettor or anything like that, but I would say, Nebraska would be a good bet this weekend. So, I think like I said, I don't agree with the line.
Yeah. John Butler, not a candidate for Penn State. And I got a note last night on Twitter. I saw somebody directed a question at me, and we had a little give and take. We're trying to determine if Nebraska had ever been more than a touchdown underdog in November against a team with a losing record. And it seems that the answer is maybe no.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have to look on that.
Not in the last 20 years, according to some research, and I don't think it happened in the 30 years before that. And then you get back into the 60s, and there's just not accurate records about point spreads.
Yep, weird one, that's for sure. All right, quick timeout. We'll be back. More of your questions after this.
A message for you right now from Gametime, because college football is here and it's the most exciting part of the season. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like all of that. But actually getting into the stadium can sometimes feel like a battle with endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. That's why I love to use Gametime, whether it's college football or whatever else you might be looking at in this holiday season. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. And you can use features like Gametime's Zone Deal. With the Zone Deals, you pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and then you save the cash. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Mitch Sherman of The Athletic, Connor Happer, 1620 The Zone, here with you on this Friday mailbag, getting ready for Thanksgiving week. But first, of course, Nebraska at Penn State, 6 p.m. Central, Saturday, NBC. We're gonna get you a good intro, I think. You like those I know CBS is better, but how NBC Saturday Night Football, it'll be cool.
100%. It'll be NBC's doing great stuff, sharp broadcasts, and it'll look good in Happy Valley on Saturday night. Speaking of Happy Valley, the site of one of the most infamous and what if games in Nebraska football history, that's where we go to. GG in Las Cruces. Great show as always. Since it is Penn State week and we have a couple of questions. In 1982, Penn State's Mike McCloskey catch out of bounds with 9 seconds left. Put the ball at the 2-yard line to keep the drive alive. He did not catch the ball. If there was replay, it would have shown that. Penn State scores in the next play and wins the game. And ultimately, also, are we sure that Kirk Bowman caught the touchdown in the back of the end zone? Who could be really sure?
Very good with your history. Todd Blackledge at the helm.
Well. I watched last night just to punch myself in the head a little bit.
Fantastic. You weren't even alive.
I was not. I like to watch old games before I was alive. That's true. There's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube. So Nebraska, it cost them a national championship, as GG writes, and it is the truth. Penn State scores in the next play, wins the national championship against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. If the correct call is made and the pass is ruled incomplete, Nebraska wins the game, finishes the season undefeated, and definitely wins the national championship. I think in that case. The question is, if the correct call is made, would the 1982 national champion look any different?
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have been Penn State, because Penn State went to Alabama a week later and lost after the Nebraska debacle. So, Penn State would not have won the national championship and would not have played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl that year. Georgia probably would have come to the Orange Bowl and played an undefeated Nebraska team, and that would have been for the title. and then LSU could have gone somewhere else, maybe the Sugar Bowl, and played Penn State. Those matchups were made in dark corners of bars back in those days. So the only thing you weren't going to get was a Big Ten or Pac-10 team in the Orange Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, because they had to go to Pasadena. But I mean, you could get it, not the champion. So this would have been a situation where it would have lined up for Nebraska and Georgia to be undefeated and to meet in the Orange Bowl that year. I think it wouldn't have been Clemson, as Gigi hinted at. You had your years wrong. Clemson won the title in 81.
Right.
And actually, in a very weird twist, this shows you how different college football is today. Clemson had a tie and a loss at the beginning of the year, and then went to play Wake Forest in the Mirage Bowl at the end of November in Tokyo. That was the end of the season.
Dude, if you had to play a bowl game in Tokyo, that'd be.
I mean, Nebraska did it in 88.
But that was a preseason. I mean, that was a first week of the season situation.
No, it was late.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah,
it was. I vaguely remember that game. I probably should remember it more, considering when it was. I do not remember. That was 92. What? Oh my God. I absolutely should remember that game. It was December 5th in Tokyo. Okay. I apologize. I don't know why I lapsed on Nebraska, Kansas State, and Tokyo, but I was like 18 years old at that point. That was one day before my 18th birthday.
Here's the other connection to the 82 game. The quarterback who threw both of those passes will be in the broadcast booth on Saturday night.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Todd Blackledge,
yes,
who has talked about this a lot recently. He came to town for, I think he was the speaker at the Jet Award last year or 2 years ago, and made some kind of jokes about it and all that stuff. So yeah, that's going to come up, I'm sure.
Who's doing the play-by-play? What's that?
Noah Eagle.
Noah Eagle. Yeah, they got the A team on this game.
Oh wow. Yeah. I think so. I guess I haven't double checked, but I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah. Well, you check, and we got one more from Gigi, who says, in light of Dylan Raiola's decommit from Nebraska and the looming January portal window, if a player has an agreement with revenue sharing in our NIL, what ramifications does that have on the salary cap, the player agreement, and the money owed? Good, go Big Red, and waving back. So I'll just get this real quick. Yeah. It depends on the contract. Like, if you decommit, then you never received any rev share, and you likely didn't receive NIL, although there are some NIL deals that can happen for high school players. And if you've received the money and then you decommit, that's too bad. It's going to have to go to the language of the contracts, and schools are going to get smart and have already gotten smart on some of this stuff, especially as it pertains to rev share. Until you're in school and playing, you're not getting paid rev share. NIL is a bit more of a wild card, but don't expect players to be getting paid to transfer. I think it's as simple as that.
All right. By the way, yes, it is Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge on Saturday night. So there you go. It'll be weird. I don't know how many references you can make to it, considering it's going to.
They'll show the highlight, and then Todd can make a joke about it and say it was inbounds, and then they should move on.
Here's Craig at Broken Arrow. Hi, fellas. Who will be the run-stopping safety and then the pass-stopping safety against Penn State? Do you need a pass-stopping safety against?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The quarterback for Grunkmeyer for Penn State, like, he can throw the ball. This is not like sticking a quarterback in there who doesn't have the ability to throw.
Yeah, but will they do it?
Yeah, they might not need to, or they might not try to. If you look at the weather, I've heard that it's going to be cold, no surprise, and maybe a chance of some precip. There was some snow on the ground when the Nebraska equipment truck showed up in State College yesterday. There's not really a run stopping and a pass stopping safety. That's not really how the defensive scheme works. But Deshaun Singleton is the Nebraska safety who does everything and will be asked to do more, I would say, in pass coverage than Rex Guthrie, whose strength is stopping the run. They're not going to play two high safeties. You're not going to see them do that, because that's just an invitation for Penn State to run the ball. So they're going to be bringing their safeties down in the box. They're both going to be asked to stop the run. I think that's the best way to put it.
I think so too. And Nebraska's corners will be asked to cover man to man on on the edge. By the way, it looks chilly, not like outright cold as far as, rain turning into snow, but we're looking at a potential rain and cold rain.
TJ Lateef probably never played in that.
Yeah, maybe somebody could ask a question about the cleats again or something like that.
Oh, how many pairs they're bringing? Yeah.
Yes.
Good question. That's a good question.
The mutters.
I got a whole semi-truck with space to put lots of cleats in. Yeah.
One more before we take a break. Here is Scott. Do Rhule and his staff have a firm stance that a player who transferred or decommitted will not be welcome to return? He's talking specifically about CJ Branaugh, the one-time Nebraska commit. Also, we'll learn a lot if Grant Segrin comes back. Not that I know of, Mitch. I don't think so.
Well, I mean, it's a case-by-case situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a hard line stance that if you certainly if you go in the portal, you can come back. We've seen that with Keona Davis and Emmett Johnson, or at least intend to go in the portal and announce that intention. Yeah, I think in the right situation, they would welcome someone back. Rhule doesn't hold a grudge against players who go in the portal, but it is a consideration. I don't think that you can just use Nebraska as a test ground and then let's go somewhere else. And it wasn't working, so I've got this safety net back in Lincoln. And they don't want to do that. They certainly don't want to do that with local high school players either. In the right situation, though, somebody would be allowed back, like Jamarcus Lawrence on the Nebraska basketball team. Big win for Fred Hoiberg's boys in Kansas City against New Mexico, 84-72 last night. He, of course, famously left Nebraska, or maybe not famously, to go to Rhode Island. Rhode Island, and then came back, had a big game last night in Kansas City. Huskers play K-State tonight for the championship in the Hall of Fame event there at T-Mobile.
Let's go. Got it rolling right now. No, I don't think so. It's a case by case. If dudes you can't burn your bridges, right? If you burn your bridges on the way out, then you're probably not going to be welcome back. But like you said, Mitch, case by case. All right, we got a few more up on the other side.
I like this next question.
Wrap up your week here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. First word from FanDuel, where the NBA is back and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the association. So if you missed the start of the game, want to ride the hot hand, whatever it might be, you can place live bets on FanDuel. Everything from who's going to win with live odds, fourth quarter comebacks, player props, things like that. They're all going to be there for you. You can even go live on your same game parlays if you'd like to as well. But if you're prepared, get in for the game before the weekend. You can take advantage of those lines as well. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. Win your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on a Friday. We'll also make a quick pick here at the end of the show once we roll through our last 3 or 4 questions here. Here's Ryan in Springfield, Missouri. Love the pod. It is elite how you come up with new content every day. If Nebraska beats Iowa, do you think fans will storm the field?
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if this surprises you, but I had to look up just as a refresher, because if I just try to guess, I'll get it wrong. You know the last time that Nebraska beat Iowa in Lincoln?
Well, their last win in the series was 22 in Iowa City. And then their last win in the series before that was 14 in Iowa City. So I guess it would have been 11. It would have been 11, because 13 was if they're going to fire me. Yeah. Holy crap.
2011. Nebraska's only beaten Iowa once at Memorial Stadium as a when this was a Big Ten game. So
that's crazy.
In light of that, I would say go ahead. At first, my thought was absolutely not. You're not going to storm the field for beating Iowa. And this is not a knock on Iowa. It's just I'm kind of over the field storm thing. I don't think that Nebraska should have stormed the field when it beat Wisconsin last year, but that was to end the bowl streak. So what's this? You ended a long drought of beating Iowa in Lincoln. You got to 8 wins or 9 wins if Nebraska comes back home from State College with 8 wins. 9 wins would be great. And I suppose like 9 wins has always just kind of been like a sacred number for Nebraska because Tom Osborne did it every year and Bo Pelini was good at getting to 9 wins. So I don't know. I think not, but some students will probably jump over the rail.
I'm usually a do whatever you want, I don't care guy, but I think specifically for this, given that, Nebraska and Iowa will either have the same record or Nebraska will be a game better than Iowa going into this game. I just don't think you could do it. I don't like, you don't.
That didn't stop them last year.
You just don't want Iowa fans saying like, look, look at this picture. We now have the picture.
Your Super Bowl, guys. That's your Super Bowl. Yeah.
I just don't think you want to deal with that.
We live rent free.
Oh yeah. See, it's already making me angry. So I just don't think you want to deal with that. So I'm a no on this one. Not like a hard no, but I would prefer no on this one.
Does it change your opinion if this game is the play-in bowl for the ReliaQuest?
It very well could be. And the loser goes to where? Music City or something like that. Yeah. Sure. It's a big game. This is going to be a huge one.
All right. Let's go to Mitch and GI. If Nebraska finishes 7-5, is that, quote, good enough? Would this year have been a success? I say yes. That's Mitch, the other Mitch, saying yes.
I say no. I don't think it's a failure, but I don't think it's a success.
It's TBD because if you go lose the bowl game at 7-5 and you finish the year with 3 consecutive losses and you have the same record as a year ago, then no. That's not a success. Like you're looking at that year and going, you had a favorable schedule, an experienced quarterback, close losses against ranked teams, and then you finished with 3 straight losses and couldn't win what was a winnable bowl game. Because if Nebraska's 7-6, it's playing in like the Vegas Bowl or the Rate Bowl and should be favored or at least like have a winnable game. No, I do not think that 7-5 is just stamp it good enough. No. Now 8 wins in the regular season, that's progress. I think no matter what happens in the bowl game. And 9 wins obviously is significant progress.
It would feel great if Nebraska. I just think Nebraska beating Iowa, to kind of go back to our last question, would really kind of stamp that. I mean, that would be a huge end to the season. I think it'd make you feel good about the progress going forward. So there's a lot that hinges on a week from today. All right, Vincent Napa to finish. Actually, we have a couple more. Vincent Napa, I'm not absolving John Butler in his role as defensive coordinator, but I find some of the slings and arrows unwarranted. Most of us thought the defensive line would take a step back with the departures of Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmaker. How likely is it that Nebraska will pursue help in the portal at defensive tackle?
Yeah, Vince also mentioned that he believes Riley Van Poppel and Keona Davis can benefit from another year in the system in the weight room, and that's true. I believe so too. Same with Williams Winery. But yes, it is very likely that Nebraska is going to go to the portal and look for help at defensive tackle, nose tackle, D tackle, whatever it is. They
100.
Yeah, I mean, you've got young players coming up, Ashton Murphy, Tyson Terry, who redshirted this year, Malcolm Simpson, but you don't want to put them in position to have to go out and play 50 or 60 reps in a game. Like, allow those guys to continue to develop and have somebody who's older and bigger and more experienced and strong and can be a run stopper in the Big Ten. Look at Nebraska's schedule next year. Huskers have Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon that replace 3 teams departing from this season. So you need a run stopping defensive line, and that's going to take help in the portal. It's the number one priority unless there's a quarterback situation that has to be addressed.
Agreed completely. And then here's Patrick to finish it off before we get to a quick pick here. Nebraska's late Heisman push led to a quick change in the leaderboard. Check it out. Okay, I will. I'm going to do so live right now. I'm going to look at the Heisman fan vote, and it still says, I think, the same thing that it said the other day. Jacob Rodriguez is leading the fan vote over Emmett Johnson by 3 or 4 percentage points.
Yeah, Emmett's number 2. Just ahead of Haynes King, Marcel Reed. These are quarterbacks on playoff contending teams. Ty Simpson. All right, then you get to the Navy running back, Blake Horvath, Julian Sayin, Joey Aguilar. All right, thank you, Tennessee fans. Yeah, he's in position to contend for that vote. Does the So I assume that the 1, 2, 3 on the Heisman leaderboard are all going to get a vote in the one vote that counts toward the official total.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just a 1-1, like a first place do or die type of thing. Like
it would be odd because you then have more first place votes in the
Right.
final tally than second and third. So I think
Yeah.
like even if Emmett finishes second in this, that it'll help his final number.
He will appear on the ballot. By the way, 9th in the Heisman fan vote is Kensei Matsuzawa, the kicker from Hawaii.
Yes, I see that. Wow.
So,
Even good.
Yeah, I think we should vote for him instead. I think that sounds like a great idea.
I'm just looking for Fernando Mendoza, and I'm not. There he is. He's 18th. So less than 1% of the votes, the favorite to win the Heisman at this point.
We love the Heisman fan vote. All right, what are we thinking here? You got a couple minutes before we wrap this thing up.
Yeah, we got some picks to make. No props for you this week. Sorry, I know we'll get back to that maybe next Wednesday. We're gonna do picks and props. I don't know. It's an open book to determine what the week. Yeah, it's a very fluid situation. So you made your prediction yesterday on the show, the crossover show with Zach and Connor. You said 23-20 Penn State. Is that correct?
23-20 Penn State. I even toyed with going a little bit lower. I just as far as a point total is concerned, I could very easily see Nebraska going in and winning this game.
Okay.
But I just think, Penn State probably breaks off one or two more big runs, and that's kind of the story.
I'm not extremely high on Nebraska's chances to win this game. I'm going to say 24-14. I think Latif is going to have some freshman moments in this game. He didn't really have that out at UCLA, but this is a tough hill to climb. And yeah, the players around him have to do their part, and they're going to be locked in. I think Emmett Johnson is going to be the focus of a big focus for Penn State this week too. That whole, not that Penn State's out there paying attention to Nebraska. There's bigger things to pay attention to at Penn State, but I'm sure some of the defenders on the Penn State side, their coaches on the defensive side, have taken notice of the fact that Nebraska's promoting Emmett Johnson as the best running back in the country, and they will take some joy in focusing on him. And he's still going to make some guys miss. I think the yards are going to come very difficult for Emmett. And, there's a side story with Emmett here in that he's really bidding to become a Doak Walker finalist. That's the real push here for Emmett. He's not going to win the Heisman. He's not going to get invited to New York. But he can be a Doak Walker finalist. He could maybe win the Doak Walker Award if he has a great final 2 games. And there are 4 backs, as I see them, contending for 3 spots in the Doak Walker pool. And Jeremiah Love is going to be a Doak Walker finalist. And then you have Keywan Lacey, who's off this week, the Ole Miss running back, and the Missouri, Ahmad Hardy, Missouri's running back, who plays at Missouri plays Oklahoma. Yeah, at Oklahoma. So they have a tough game. Emmett Johnson has a tough game. The Doak Walker finalists will be announced Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So you only got one more opportunity, Emmett, to get in there. The votes will be in on Saturday night. Hopefully the voters for that award are watching what Hardy and Johnson do, because that may be the final spot right there.
Let me just say this too before we go. I mean, what a great spring! I think I don't think I've ever said this against Nebraska's playing a team with a losing record going into late November now. But I think this is a really good springboard opportunity for Nebraska. I mean, think about there will be some real juice next week for Black Friday if Nebraska is able to go into that game with 8 wins, looking for 9 in the regular season against their biggest rival. Like it's a really big opportunity to kind of plant your flag here a little bit. And a lot of the story of the 2025 season is still yet to be written in these next 2 weeks. So this is still a big one for Nebraska.
Yeah, the story of it rides on these last 2 games. It's either going to be Nebraska finally cashed in on an opportunity, or it continued to miss every opportunity. And it goes back to the earlier question: if Nebraska goes 7-5 in the regular season and has losses against USC, Michigan, Penn State, and Iowa, those are 4 opportunities for Nebraska to break through or have some kind of a breakthrough. And you want to bring 1 or 2 of those home. Very quickly, before we leave, Big Ten game of the week, number 15, USC at number 7, Oregon, 2:30 p.m., CBS. Ducks are a 9.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'll take Oregon here. Just more physical.
Going with SC to cover in that game. I think it'll be a close game. USC's USC did a nice job this year of building an offense that fits within the Big Ten. So did Oregon, and I think they're going to play a non-Pac-12 kind of game, more of a Big Ten game, and that lends itself to being a little bit more low scoring and competitive on the scoreboard. So, national game of the week. So, should we go with Samford at Texas A&M? Maybe Charlotte at Georgia. Eastern Illinois is at Alabama in Week 13. These are classic November football games right there in the SEC.
No, I don't think so. Those are great options. Probably right. Missouri, Oklahoma, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the only ranked versus ranked game, but the one I picked out is in the Big 12. Number 11 BYU, 9-1 at Cincinnati, which has some interest to Nebraska. Bearcats are 7-3, 2 losses in the Big 12. 7 p.m. on Fox. BYU going in, holding on to playoff hopes as a 2.5-point favorite. Do the Cougs get out of Cincy?
I mean, this is going to be a difficult one. I think that I will take BYU. I'm not super convinced about that, but I think I'll take the team with a little, Cincinnati's on their last leg as far as getting to the Big 12 championship game. So give me BYU.
Yep. I agree with you. BYU wins it by a field goal and covers.
Can I interest you at all, by the way, in an ACC championship game eliminator between Pitt and Georgia Tech?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I looked at that game. That's at Georgia Tech, right?
It is.
Yeah, I like Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I do
9-1 to move to 10-1, and then a sneaky, interesting game next week between Georgia Tech and Georgia.
Well, we remember the game last year.
Yeah, it was wild, wasn't it? Georgia Tech win it on a
overtime. Yeah, there was 100 things going.
Georgia Tech is very good at that. That's their thing. Is they are fantastic in these last minute situations, and some of that has to do with Haynes King, their QB, and their coach. Definitely key provides an environment that they play well at the end, and they're both of those teams, of course, are vying for playoff positioning, and the game might not matter for either one of them in whether they get to the playoff.
All right, that's it for us. Thanks for tuning in this week. Appreciate it. We'll be back with a reaction show at some point this weekend, and then a abbreviated, of course, week of shows next week before the game on Friday. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out Locked On Big Ten. Find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.